Well, and as Winston's doing that, I just want to say good afternoon. Hello, welcome. We are so excited to talk about ACTFest. Before we jump about ACTFest, I always have to plug something going on with ACT because we always have a lot going on. This is an exciting week because not only do we have this roundtable, but we also have a virtual masterclass on Thursday all about the what, why, and how of devised theater. So if you're curious about starting to do devised work in your theater but unsure where to start, this is the one for you. It is going to be a great time. I'm sending the link in the chat. And I also want to remind everyone that we have two CTMC, that's Community Theater Management Conferences, coming up this month. We have one East Coast time, one West Coast time, both virtual. So I'm sending that link as well. But now I'll pass things over to Mary Jo, who will be running things today for all of us. Thank you all.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's ACTFest time already. It's some people say it's early, and no, not really, because we're always thinking about ACTFest. But we're going to kind of go over probably a lot of things that people already know. Maybe we're going to hit on some things that you don't know. But one of the things is, what is ACTFest? Is it a competition? Sure. But what is it
Bunch
else?
of
What
research.
else? What else do we get out of this whole process? So I want everyone who's a panelist today actually to introduce themselves and kind of give in one, two, few words, what does ACTFest mean to you and what do you learn from it? So I'm going to flip it over first let's go to Chris Surface.
Hello, everybody. My name is Chris Surface. I'm the managing artistic director at Tacoma Little Theater in Tacoma, Washington. And we have brought a show to ACTFest in 2019, The Pillow Man, when it was in Gettysburg. And ACTFest to me is rejuvenating, celebration, exposure to art. That's kind of how I'd sum it up.
Fabulous. Let's head over to Lyle.
Uh, hey, everybody. Thanks, Mary Jo. My name is Lyle Tate, and I live in Houston, Texas, and my home theater is Baytown Little Theater, just down the street a little bit at Baytown. Um, I think of Act Fest and the whole act process as a a return to what I think of as my real world. I am not a I don't make my living from at being a theater professional, but I call it my real job. And so I love the opportunity to go back, whether it's going to a state festival, a regional, or definitely getting to go to ActFest, and just as Chris said, have that rejuvenation. And it's the road to opportunities, mostly the opportunity to meet people, get ideas, and take it all home with me.
Fabulous. Karen, I'm going to jump to you. Everyone knows Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen Matheny. I'm the membership director for ACT, also the ActFest registrar when it comes to all things ActFest. And what it is to me, so I call ACT all the time a theater family. And so ActFest for me it's a big reunion. You're reunited with your theater family. You have that friendship and that fellowship and networking. So that's what ActFest is to me, being reunited with your theater family at large.
All right, let's hop back over to Mr. David.
Hello, hello. You already heard David Van Cleve. I'm the education director. Um, ACT is a little bit of everything for me. It's a party, it's a celebration, it's inspiration, it's education, it's fellowship. It is all of those things all in one. And hopefully it is the best week of your summer.
Fabulous. Hey, Quiana.
Hi. Hi, I'm Quiana Clark Rowland. I'm the executive director for AACT. I will echo much of what everyone else said. For me, it is connection, celebration, and community through the means of theater. And I think that ActFest allows those that practice theater, no matter their level of expertise or the amount of years they've been doing it, to find common ground in order to learn from one another, in order to connect with one another, in order to celebrate one another. And so for me, it's just a week of celebrating the thing, who you are and what you do with others who are like-minded.
Fabulous. Winston, my cohort in crime. Anything you want to add?
Absolutely not. Quiana kind of summed it all up for me as well. Winston Daniels, everybody. I am the operations coordinator for AACT. Newfound role, love it. But yes, it is an opportunity for connection, for networking, for just some fun, for love to be in a room, and an opportunity for new ideas to grow and come to mind. It's a beautiful opportunity.
Yeah, it's so much more than a competition. And I think that's one of the things that always comes up. It's a competition, but it really is so much more. I mean, I always remember, my first Act Fest back in long time ago, let's just go. But it was the education, it was meeting the people, it's the networking, and it's having that family and friends, like Karen said, it's a family. It's the family and friends of all across the United States that just makes it so much fun. So one of the things that's always another thing that's asked is, well, what makes these performances different? Chris, what's the difference between going to a festival or just performing at home? What do you see as the big difference, and what's the big advantage?
The big advantage is an audience that's totally fresh and new and has no preconceived notions about the show. They're coming in fresh. It could be a piece they've never seen before. It could be a piece they're familiar with, but they're seeing a new take on it because they are seeing a 60-minute cutting of that show. How did you take this two-act show and make it into a 60-minute piece? What did you decide maybe shouldn't be there, and what made the story flow better? After, of course, you got the permission from the author and the rights house to do that cutting. Um, and being outside of your own four walls, your own home, challenges you to tell the story in a way that is unique to your presentation of it, that you are bringing this new, fresh look at it, that you are letting another group of people see for the first time outside of your four walls. Did that kind of answer your question, Mary Jo?
That answers my question.
Okay.
Thank you. Lyle, I'm going to call on you for a minute. How do you get started? I mean, what's the path? How did we start out? Do we start just, in our city? Do we start in our state? Where do we go? How do we get started?
Yeah, I think the best place, obviously, to start is in your home theater and, working with a play reading committee or finding a show and a director who is inspired by a certain story and presenting it to your board or whoever your decision makers are to say, I have found this really great script, this great story, whether it fits your regular season or not, whether you do it as a part of your regular season or not. And I would really love to take this throughout the act cycle. And so that starts typically with your overall state festival. Some states obviously have I'm going to call them preliminaries, whether it's a section of the state that then moves on to the full state, like Texas or Ohio, or but you just start putting it together. And the greatest resource to start with is the ACT handbook, and to read through that and see, okay, these are what we need to do. This is how I cut it, as Chris said, after you get permission to make that cutting. And then you figure out, okay, how are we going to be creative and come up with whatever set design we want to take, keeping in mind that it costs money to travel and to carry things with you, a few miles down the road. And so maybe you want to keep it really simple and just keep the focus on your actors and the story. Or maybe you've got the focus there and you want to show this really neat way to stage it with maybe different doorways, a certain wall, walls that turn, however you want to do that, that fits within the parameters of what's allowed, and just to start that way and put it together just like any other show you would do, and have audiences see it, and then take it to your state festival.
Fabulous. Chris, okay, I go to my state festival and we're competing and everything. And what happens at state festival, and how do I get to a regional?
At State Festival, you are celebrating theater with whoever's coming from your state as well. Hopefully, you have a large turnout and you're all presenting your shows. You are getting adjudicated by theater professionals who are reviewing the show. And that whole creed that you're given is this a fully realized production? Is your cutting, is your set, are your actors, is your tech, is that all bringing it together to create the most fully realized production overall from that group you are performing, the groups you are showcasing with. Um, so at that state festival, you will go through that adjudication process. The adjudicators meet in a room. Secret ballots are cast. They have to determine who will be the shows that move on. Depending on how many theaters are performing in your state, you may have two shows moving on from that state level to the regional level. And hopefully you cross your fingers and you are one of those shows. The thing I would say, as since we're talking about state level, is if you are fundraising to go to the state level, you are fundraising to go to the national level. You have to plan ahead. The hardest thing to see is when a show makes it to the regional level and then they're like, oh, yeah, we really don't want to go any further. So that was it. And it hurts because it's taken an opportunity away from another company. And then you have to go back to those companies that maybe did not place and advanced on to say, hey, do you still want to try and do this? When it's just better be honest and upfront with it when you're starting. If you are committing to try the state festival, you really should be committing to try the whole process as well. If not, check with your state and see if they have a showcase option where they just allow showcasing to come through and do perform it at the state level, and you have no interest in going to regional. And depending on how many companies are performing, they might let you do that. But really, you are going in for the long haul if you are making that commitment to the state level.
Absolutely. Kieran, I'm going to ask you a question because you are a brand new adjudicator and you just adjudicated this past weekend. So Chris was talking about fully realized productions. So as an adjudicator, what are you looking for that fully realized production? What makes it a fully realized production?
So I guess first I have to talk about my process as an adjudicator. Of course, you want to read the script and be familiar with the play, and then also do maybe some research about the playwright, maybe what was going on in the world at that time that might have influenced why they wrote this play or how this play came to be. So I take all of these things into consideration and go, okay, so here is the play. What does this play require? What are its basic requirements? Whether that is from the set, the props, the actors, the director, what are the bare bones of this play? What does it require? So I make sure, I look at those things and I keep those in mind. And then see what the performing company, if they meet those basic requirements, just fully realize. And I think every theater, whether they're doing ACTFest or just doing a show in your own theater, these are all things that we think about, and are trying to do and accomplish every time that we work on a show. So as an adjudicator, I'm thinking, what are those bare bones, that foundation? And I'm looking for those things. Hopefully
Fabulous.
that answers your question.
Well, one of the things too, I also want to tell people who are attending today, at any time, I'm just going to reiterate, if you have a question and something that we say or we talk about and you want us to jump in, please drop it into, what is it, the chat, Winston? Am I saying this right? Yes. No, I'm not saying it
You're going to
right.
be dropping that inside of the Q&A
There we
section
go.
of
Thank you. It's been a while since I posted one of these into the Q&A. But while I have Winston live with me,
All
so
right.
we want your company has won the state festival and you're going on to regionals. Let's talk about some of the nitty gritty. There's
Mhm.
forms that have to be filled out. What
Oh,
type of
absolutely.
forms have to be filled out and guidelines and timeframes on that? Because I know that's something that we as staff sometimes, not struggle with, but, try to encourage people to do sooner.
Absolutely. And I would say that everything is online, except for our affidavits, which need to be signed for us. But handbook, 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 and I will reiterate that throughout the entirety of ACTFest cycle. Read that handbook, make sure that you know ins and outs of that handbook. Inside of that handbook will be some example forms and what have you that we have converted to online formats. But moving from the state level onto the region level, what needs to happen is scripts need to be sent to the adjudicators. And 9 times out of 10, that is going to be sent on from the previous state chair, if you will. They're going to move that on over to the next chair, which is your region festival chair. And we want to make sure that they have at least 2 weeks prior to so that they have time to read said script. If there's nothing scheduled for your region at that point, I will then receive those scripts and make sure that when the region festival is set and ready to go, that those scripts are sent out. Those scripts being five for the national festival, four scripts, five. Might as well just go ahead and get five for the entirety. Will be handled by me, and at the national festival, all of that will be in my purview. I'm not sure if I answered your question or not, but
I think so. I think so. It's one of the things
it's a
that,
lot of moving parts, is what it is.
I do have a question for you. So is the
Yeah.
Act 27 handbook available yet?
I do believe that it is ready to be viewed.
Not quite.
However, it needs to be uploaded. And I do believe that that's going to happen this Friday. All of our last minute changes, all of our last edits will be finally ready. And that's including all of the links that will be your C1, your T forms, all of that is going to be ready for you guys to
What I've been
start
spending
submitting.
all morning on is I'm trying to make it more better, more readable, I guess would be the best way. A lot of the paragraphs and tight stuff, I'm trying to break out into more bullet point type process for everyone, so it's easier to read and easier to find the information you're looking for. I know that's been a struggle in the past, so I'm trying to break things out so it's easier to find. Um, Great. I'm going to jump back over to Chris and Lyle again because I have two gentlemen here who have gone state festival. They've moved on to regional and then they've moved on to national. So they're experts at this. So what was the most exciting and what was the most daunting process to take your group and tell us what size you had too, because it's there's also this element. Do we just go with a small group or do we go with a big group? So what was the most daunting aspect? What's the most exciting aspect in when you went through this process? Chris.
I would say the exciting is just the fact you're doing it. You are getting out there, you're doing it. You have gone through this process. You've gone and proven yourself at the state level and the regional level, and now you are going to this national level where you are celebrating theater with people from all over the country and world and bringing your vision of the art to life. And that is just such an exhilarating feeling, doing that load in, doing that setup, and hearing the audience murmuring in the background as you can imagine the conversations, because you have those conversations yourself when you're watching it of like, oh, that's really cool how they did that. Wow, they brought that, they did that with that set, made that come out here. It's those neat things and feeling that energy come from the audience. It's just exhilarating. The daunting thing is getting there, is finding out how you're getting the logistics to happen. We're in Tacoma, Washington, the Pacific Northwest, and we had to get our set to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And so we sent it FedEx. And for us, that was daunting because FedEx destroyed our set. Uh, they, number one, didn't deliver it when they were supposed to. So we had to rent a U-Haul and go pick it up ourselves. And when they pulled it out of their shipping yard on their forklift, a forklift had gone through the bottom of the set and there were pieces hanging out of the bottom of the crate that the set was in. So we luckily were able to use the parking lot at the theater in Gettysburg to rebuild and repaint our set that had been destroyed and get it put back together. But that was something we were definitely not expecting. But it's theater. We roll with it, we make it happen, and you have the people who come together to help you out in situations like that. But it's that exhilaration of being there and that dauntingness of the logistics of getting there.
Yeah, how many people did you have with that year?
Our cast was four. Our tech crew was, I want to say there were five of us on tech crew for it.
Okay. And you traveled them all the way across the
We
country.
traveled all
Great.
the way across.
Yeah. Lyle.
I agree with Chris. I think the most exciting part and the biggest reward is you're at ACTFest and you're on the stage. You have already won. You know, again, we use the word competition and all this, and yes, there's awards, and yes, we want them, but just look at it like you really have run the gauntlet of American community theater, and you're among how many? 10, yeah, 10 other just, groups that have done exactly the same thing. And so it is all a celebration. Everyone is on the same stage, literally, and so just enjoy every moment that you can. And doesn't mean you don't want to focus and do your best show, but just realize this is the reward. This is what we wanted to happen. We wanted to have this show that we have loved and believed in seen by as many people as possible. And the most recent one that I was a part of, there were seven of us, two cast members, and then five, check my math, crew. And so even with just seven people, it doesn't sound like that much, but it is not an inexpensive process. And so anytime that I personally am a part of commissioning or meeting with groups that are at the state or regional level, I just try to say as many times, thank you, thank you, thank you for bringing this, because it takes time, resources, money, people saying yes, people having others stand in for their duties, it just takes a lot of commitment to make that happen. And so that is also something to celebrate at that moment. Yes, you've fundraised and you've had so many people help you out to get you there. And so it's just a celebration of all their belief in you throughout the whole process.
Oh, you bring up a really good point, and it's the fundraising point. So, how did you guys fundraise to go to a state, regional, national festival? What type of things did you do to raise money?
Our theater, we really enjoy being a part of the ACT cycle, and we we budget a small amount each year for state involvement, and then if we continue with the show, we then dive into a little more fundraising efforts. We did something with the most recent show that we took that was really enjoyable. In our area of Texas, there's many community theaters in our quadrant of Texas, and um, some people reached out to us, but then we would reach out to other theaters, and we sort of hit the road and made it a little road show, and performed at four sister theaters around our area, in addition to performing at home. Um, and sometimes they would also perform a show, a little one act, and then we would do our show next to them. It was beneficial, one, because the money that they raised with tickets and donations, they very, very generously donated to us, to help us, make it, all the way to Des Moines. And it was great because a big part of the process is loading it in the truck, like Chris says, getting your set there, getting it out, getting it into the theater, getting a feeling for this new stage, this new audience, the new sound in here. And so we got to do that four times. And so by the time we got to Des Moines, I don't mean to say it was just another stage, because it was a really great stage, but we'd already been through that, multiple times. We had loaded in, we spiked our set, which was, I think, two pieces of tape. So, it was so great to have that experience, and it connected us to audience members in those cities that we knew and that we had seen at state level events. But just that generosity of their welcoming us into their homes, their home theaters, was really wonderful.
Yeah. Chris, how did you guys raise money?
We did some benefit performances here on stage, and we ran them just like we would a true performance. So the audience who came to see didn't just see us do the show. They saw us do a 10-minute setup. They saw us do the 60-minute show. They saw us do the 10-minute strike. And then we talked about it. And it's the interesting things, the show went over once when we were doing it in our test one, and we're like, how the heck did that happen? So it was a good learning experience for us too, because one of the audience members was like, that was 61 minutes I was timing, and we're like, you are absolutely right. And it taught us, what could we do if something like that happened again? Where's our backup plan? And so it was great because we used those as rehearsals, but we also used them as fundraising for that. And we also reached out to local businesses and said, hey, we're doing this. Are you willing to sponsor us? And so we did see some sponsorships come through from some local businesses, excited to see representation from our little area of the country on a stage all the way on the East Coast.
Yeah, we did the same thing. We did, donated or, donations only. We did the same thing on the stage. And then the volunteers of the year that we were doing also sold, like they took over the concession stand for a couple nights with the theater's permission that they got the proceeds. They sold flowers for like the education programs. They ended up like for Beauty and the Beast and stuff, they bought the light up roses and they were totally in charge of I actually footed the bill for their first purchase out of my pocket. They paid me back, and then anything that they raised after that point was, theirs to keep for fundraising. And I have to say, they raised $8,000 to $10,000 that year. So, like you said, they were planning to go all the way. I would like to bring Quiana back in as we're talking about funding and different types of things. Quiana, would you talk for a moment about what the endowment of AACT provides at the national level?
Oh, absolutely. So ACT has a endowment in which serves the purpose. Our festival, we have a mission and a festival endowment. The purpose of the festival endowment is to help raise funds to provide funding that offsets the cost of taking your show to the national festival. So this last cycle, 2020 five, each theater received around 400, 4,000, $4,300 to go towards back to the theater to compensate the cost for travel or whatever they may need the funding for their theater. So we just hand over a check for $4,300 and the theater takes it back and use it however they need to. So that is also another source of funding for your journey. And there was something else I was going to say. But yeah, and then there's no strings attached to this particular funding. Once you get to that level, you're automatically guaranteed the funding once you arrive at ACTFest.
And it's so nice to receive
People.
that check on stage from everybody.
Yeah.
It's a great thing because you're like, oh, it's a little less than it's a little more in the coffers now. We don't have to stress so much about, oh my God, this was expensive.
Oh, what I was going to say, we will know exactly what the grant will be. I call it a grant. It's very similar to that. Um, at the end of spring. So that usually comes after the audit. And it's kind of based upon investments and things like that. But usually the amounts go up. And so we're probably looking at minimum $4,300, if not more, for the next festival cycle.
Mary Jo, did we want to take the question in the Q&A?
Yeah, because I see you're watching as I am. I know Karen was starting to type, but go ahead and take it. On
Um,
the topic, fully realized production, how is that reconciled equability for theaters with less resources? Largest theaters can potentially realize more with their resources, better set, tech, costumes, etc. Is that factored into the standard? So go ahead, Chris.
the first thing I'd say is, A, it's an excellent question. And you've got actually a great group of people in this room because not only do you have myself and Lyle and who have done the process, but both Lyle and myself are also adjudicators along with Karen. So you've got a good mix in the room of people who can give some great advice on this. And the thing about a fully realized production is it doesn't matter how big the set is, how much money you spent on costumes. It's did everything you did to make the show come to life work in the right way to tell your story. And I have seen shows that had bare bones minimal sets that are the ones who were the most fully realized production, where you're like, you could have done so much more, but it didn't need to be in their story. It wasn't necessary to tell their story, and it made it work beautifully. So it's all in how you present it. And I know that sounds kind of like a generic answer, but it doesn't matter. And that's the great thing about going to ACTFest as well. When you see these 12 companies on stage performing, they are coming from a world of different resources. We're talking theaters that have a $5,000 budget to theaters that have a million, 1.2 or higher budgets that are coming to perform at ACTFest. And it levels the playing field. It really does because you all are stuck on this same, you have 10 by 10 foot square on how you do it. You have the same 10, 60, 10. It's how you make that show work within those parameters. So it doesn't have to be the splashiest, flashiest. It can just be that story you're telling and doesn't fully realize it.
Right.
Yeah. What I was typing, you said it so eloquently, Chris. I love it. But what I was typing is that no, everyone, and even out of an Act Fest cycle, like every theater has a different interpretation, your design, your concept for a play. The only thing is if the play requires something very specific, like a character wears a very specific color of something, or the set has to do something very specific, or something that is central to the play, make sure that you know have those things. I guess that would be the only thing that would, as an adjudicator, take me out, I guess. But no, how do you, interpret that play? How do you want to present that? I'm always excited to see how people interpret um,
Yeah,
different works.
yeah, I agree with that. And yes, Quiana, go ahead.
And this is just from, bigger picture and how we actually, this is from a perspective of how we actually run the festival. So these are things that we go through and we talk to the adjudicators about. We also look at who we're selecting as the adjudicators, people that are invested, people who are champions of community theaters, people who understand that everybody's going to be on different levels. And so when we're looking at a national adjudicator, we look at people who are able to distinguish between the two. And then I will just also and Chris and Lyle can speak to this a little bit more. I think it's just also being smart about what you're selecting for your particular show. So if it's not a piece that's going to be in your season and you've got a group of people who really want to do this, they're invested, you may want to look at plays that would work well with the cast or the crew that you currently have. And so those are just two pieces that I want to share as well.
Yeah, I second that, Quiana, because you're right. It really goes back to that first step, which is finding the right show for your company.
Hmm.
Sometimes, it's like I said, it's a director who comes up with a show and they hope they open auditions. Sometimes it's a director who has a show who selects the people and asks them to be a part of it because you really want to have putting on the best realized overall production starts with who's doing it and who's in the right roles and
Hmm.
uh, a show that works in your regular season that has a cast that has fun with it and does a good job with it can be a little bit different from a show where somebody is just the right person for that to tell that story. And thinking about sets, sometimes a set will come out and it's this glorious, beautiful, large, almost overbearing, presence that it could have been told much more succinctly and beautifully with the focus on the person or on the colors that are in the costumes. Finding the right resource of how to best tell your story, I think, is the greatest. And I'm fascinated by what folks can do with sometimes no set, sometimes nothing. It doesn't have to be this big grand thing. And tech goes a long way. Using tech correctly and to the best of your um, capabilities is a big part of it.
Building off that too, Lyle, one thing I'd say is as you're looking at how am I going to design this show? Number one, you want to look all the way to the final level first. So you want to see where are you performing it? What is the space like? What are the tech requirements of that space? Because you don't want to overbuild, you don't want to underbuild. But the thing is, you don't necessarily know what your state level is going to look like or your regional level is going to look like. So you kind of want to do something that is going to be able to either adapt really quickly and easily or just build minimalistic and know that you're going to tell the story with the other factors of it. Because for the example, this last festival cycle in 25, the theater we were at in Des Moines, everything had to go through an 8 by 8 foot door. There was no door that was taller. So if you had built your set thinking, oh, well, we've got, huge loading doors that we can go through, you might not. So you really want to be smart on can the things I bring with me fit through normal spaces? Um, which does kind of lead us to the second
Yep.
question that's in
And
the
that's where I was
box.
headed, Chris. The next question is, it's been a while since I've read the previous handbook, but can we talk a bit about how the tech crew gets a chance to set their lights and sound cues? So I have, well, we're three of us are commissioners as well. So I also include the commissioner aspect for both because Lyle, Chris, and myself are all commissioners. Let's talk about that for a moment. How does that work? Lyle,
Sure. So first you will receive, let's say you're at your state level, you'll receive information or a packet or an email, a diagram, specs anyway on what the space offers you. This level of lighting is available. Um, we have no travelers, we only have set legs, or we have a main act or we don't. You should see, and this sound capability, you can plug in this but not that. So you'll get all of that information, which really will help you know, okay, well, we can either take a special or we can adapt what we want to do like that. um, so you'll get those parameters. And if you have any questions as you're getting ready for the festival, hopefully your commissioner and the tech contact at that theater are very available to answer those questions.
Chris, you want to
And
add?
then, yeah, I was going to say, and so then, Nancy, as you were talking about, how the tech crew gets a chance to set those light and sound cues. You have an 80-minute rehearsal to use however you want to. 80 minutes equals a 10-60-10. Some companies use it just to do that. Other companies use it for only a tech rehearsal where they set all their light and sound cues and they're like, we don't need to rehearse. We've done this show so many times already. We just want to make sure our tech's right. It's how you want to use it. The great thing is everybody's on that same level playing field. So you all have that same tech and sound rehearsal. Nobody's getting any extra time. It's how you use that time and what you think is the most important thing for you. I will say that if you have a great lighting designer and they can pre-program cues and slap it into whatever the light board is going to be used, that's fantastic because that takes care of part of the problem of setting all those cues. If you have sound will travel, that's great too. If you can just walk in and plug right in, you're set and good to go. But really it comes down to know your limitations. And if you think you can't get everything done in 80 minutes for a light and a sound tech, you probably want to revisit what your decisions are on that. And do you simplify or do you figure out a way to make sure it gets done?
Exactly. I've seen it done both ways, every which way possible as a commissioner of how people want to do it. But like Chris said, it's your time. It's those 80 minutes. It's all your time. Let me look here. What do
One other thing too, I want to say really quickly on that,
yeah,
Mary Jo, is everybody who's there from your festival chair, your commissioner, your tech director for whoever's tech directing for that festival, they all want to see you succeed. And they will do everything in their power to help you out and answer your questions. The one limit that they have is they can't do anything that is not available to the other companies as well. So they will give you the same information, the same back end support. Everything you need will be given to every company in that way. All you have to do is ask. Don't be scared to ask those questions. If it's something that goes beyond where you're like, well, that's not really equitable to the other companies, and they'll say, yeah, unfortunately, we can't do that. Great example is, oh, we'd like to add microphones at the last minute. Well, that wasn't on your T4 form that you submitted into it. So that's not actually something that's set up for it. Those are the types of things that would be like, probably not. But always ask. That's the best thing. You have all that contact information as well.
yeah. Chris, let's talk a minute about what I lost it. Sorry. I was on a whole other track. My apologies. So, Winston, I'm gonna hop to you really quick. So, where is the next national festival and when will it be?
Well, it's going to be in Rochester, Minnesota, June 16th through the 19th of 2027. It's going to be at the Mayo Civic Center. And when I tell you it's an absolutely beautiful place to be and just take in, just take me at my work at that. It is a beautiful place. I'm excited to see all of these faces, that is for sure, in person.
And one more question for you, Winston.
Mhm.
I want to get involved, and my theater hasn't been involved for a while. So, how do I find out if my state has a festival?
Call me. Give me a shout. However, you can email me, you can email Mary Jo, you can email Karen, you can give us all a shout in any way, shape, or form, and we will find out the point of contact for you if we don't already have it. And at that point, you'd be able to reach out, see if there's anything going on, and if not, figure out a way to get something started.
So, Chris, another question for you. And this is where I was headed in the first place. So I find out that my state isn't having a state festival. Can I still get involved?
Yes. Depending on what's happening, the first thing you would do is you'd reach out to the VP of Festivals and Mary Jo and say, hey, here's my situation. And they would start the process of how does a theater get represented from a state that might not be having a festival? And a lot of times that might mean, and Mary Jo, correct me if I'm wrong on anything, but you might be adjudicated separately.
Yes.
You might have an adjudicator sent out to adjudicate that show for you. In some situations, I know this has happened in the past, you might be invited to the regional as a competitor, but not necessarily competing at that regional level. In it's not an automatic invitation to regional, but it's an opportunity to be seen and evaluated in that
Yeah,
respect.
they have to, everyone has to be adjudicated. And the preference would be that they're adjudicated before they hit the regional festival so that they're still on the same level playing field as everyone else who's coming to the regional festival because they've all been adjudicated once. So, in order to keep it fair and on the same playing level, we would probably ask adjudicators that are closer to their theater. And it can just be at that point, it can just be one person. One adjudicator can go to that theater in whatever state they are, adjudicate them so that then they can go to a regional festival. Yes, Guyana.
I have a question for more for Chris. Can you explain the benefits of being adjudicated at the state and regional level? So a person may be like, "Oh, why do I have to be adjudicated if there's no competition?" But maybe you want to share for those that may not understand the benefits of being adjudicated prior to getting to regional or to the national festival.
Chris, you actually muted yourself.
Oh no.
You were already
You
unmuted.
know, it is an evolution. Your show is an evolution. And from that state level, adjudicators are going to say, hey, they're not going to redirect your show for you. That is something that adjudicators are, we are brainwashed into. We do not redirect a show as an adjudicator. But what we do is say, what if you examine this aspect of it? I'll pull something from Karen said. She talked about maybe there's something in that script that you're like, you know what? There was a key component that I thought we're doing Lorca in a green dress, and I was missing that green dress. Have you thought about having somebody in a green dress? And that's advice that you can then take and incorporate into your next performance level, the regional level. Maybe, hey, the lighting just we were lost a little bit in the shadows sometimes. And as you consider moving forward, you might want to re-examine what elements you have available on stage, either through practicals or the equipment that's in the theater, and see if you might want to be able to brighten those scenes up a little bit to give us a better picture of what's happening. It's those advice nuggets that the adjudicators are giving you that you can then incorporate in. You can only change your show if it is words from the adjudicator to make the production better. Um, and so you get two opportunities before you get to the national festival for those feedback options to be put into play. You get that state level adjudication where they say, hey, try this. You get to the regional level and they're like, oh my God, it was perfect. I want to change a thing. And you're like, okay, we did it. Or you get to the regional level and they're like, hey, have you thought about maybe doing this? It might clean up this picture a little bit. And then you can do that. You can move it on to the level as well. Here's the thing though, it's advice. You don't have to use it if you don't want to, but know that you have the option to use it. And I've seen shows, I've had the privilege of seeing a show at all three levels. And there was one thing that they did not do that was given to them at the state level. Regional level didn't get talked about, but the or the national level, they were like, yeah, this really just killed the moment for me. I'm like, yeah, because they were told about that at the state level. They should have fixed it then. But it's use that advice.
And Chris, if I can just add on to that, as with my actor hat on, having rehearsed and performed and performed and traveled and performed and gotten, state adjudication, you think you've got it to the limit that you can do it. And then we more recently received some adjudication at the regional level that opened a door that we didn't even know existed. I mean, we there were just two of us talking to each other in the show, and we thought, okay, yeah, we can talk, but the advice and the ideas that we got from all the whole panel made such a difference that we had no idea, so being open to uh, trying new things until the last day, to bring out more, and all of that comes from the adjudication.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do a real quick pat on the back of Lyle real quick because I saw Lyle's show at Nationals and Lyle's show was fantastic. Tuesdays with Maury, they were a fantastic cast and a beautiful production of that.
Well,
I cried a little bit.
me
We've been
too.
we've been talking a lot about ActFest and different things, and we've been talking about the productions. So, what else happens at ActFest besides the productions? David Van Cleve, would you like to hop back in and talk about what happens in the education world at ActFest?
Well, Mary Jo, that's a great question. And the answer to that comes from you guys. We have lots of workshops, dozens of workshops on any topic you can think of. We have a wonderful education committee, and we'll put together a workshop little task force to help field all the proposals we get. That request for proposals, the RFP, will open sometime this summer, generally in May. And we are looking for any and all kinds of workshops. The more active, the better. But we've had everything from choreography sessions where you can learn the choreography from one short day in Wicked. We've had prop making workshops. Those are always fun. Makeup, intimacy direction, Shakespeare, the how to choose an audition song, vocal health for singers and performers. Literally anything theater related. It could be administrative. It could be designed for marketing, directors, designers, actors, anything you want. And we always try to make sure that we are getting a range of topics, a range of presenters, and covering all of our bases in terms of we'll have some workshops that are great for beginners. Maybe you've never used QLab before and you're interested in how that works, all the way to this is a very specific topic for directors who are directing this type of work. So I say start planning now. If there is a topic that you are an expert on that you want to present, we want to hear from you. Similarly, if there's a topic that you are dying to know more about and dying to learn about, that is equally important to us. There's not a form for that. You can just email me at any time, whether it's ActFest or not. We do virtual programming as well. So any topic that you think I would really like to learn more about theater for the very young or baby theater, let us know. And we will reach out and seek those experts to make sure that we are covering the topics that you want to know more about.
Absolutely. And then there's other things that happen. We have monologue competitions for both youth and adults. We've had keynote speakers, and that's always exciting to see who we might be bringing in. And then there's these little things called afterglows, or if we don't have one sponsored, usually you'll find a lot of us somewhere in the lobby, after everything is done, maybe partaking a drink. But it's a great time to network and to meet new people and to talk about different things that you saw during the week and just what's coming up next. Mark has also asked a question. Whoops, it disappeared on me.
I've got it up
While
still.
you're finding it, I just want to throw out one more thing, Mary Jo.
Yeah,
We also have a great exhibit hall
yes,
that has wonderful representation from our licensing companies and lighting companies and anything that will help your theater thrive. That's what we're all about, and that's what we do. And so we make sure that we have the right exhibitors to help your organization thrive. So I
and
always encourage people to check that out.
let's not forget, we also have a silent auction. So the silent auction also helps support our endowment fund, which in turn helps support all of our groups who are traveling to national festivals. So the money that is raised at the silent auction, some fabulous items every single year, that money goes directly back to our groups who are participating.
Can I add
Did
on
you?
one more thing too?
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely. No,
and
you
one
may
thing we
not.
started doing more and more, and we have a very jam-packed week, but one thing
Yes,
we've been trying to do more and more of is having regional and state meetups. So it's also a great opportunity, especially if your state does not have a state association or organization, it's a great opportunity for you to meet other like-minded people in your state and have a way of connecting and having a drink or just finding out who's doing one in your state.
Yeah,
And
there's so much that goes on. We forget what's going on all
well,
week
and I
long
think
because there's so much.
usually we have CTMC in person on the front end of that.
Yep.
And then we also usually have adjudication training during the
Yep.
course of that. I don't know if that got mentioned earlier. I might have missed that.
Yep.
Yeah, something for
But
everybody. Did
something
you
for
have
everybody.
a question?
I've got
Yeah.
Mark's question, and Lyle answered it offline, but we'll
Okay.
get it out for everybody. What percentage of productions that are performed at festivals, state, regional, and national, are musicals? And that is a kind of a crazy question because it is low for the most part, but there are some years where we've seen large numbers. And it's one of those kind of, it's a crapshoot on what makes it through the process. There's been some great small musicals. We've seen the Addams Family win nationals in 2017. And we've seen two-person musicals win on that. It's really, as Lyle said on that, is because the cost and size and requirements for a musical, it's usually a little bit tougher to bring those. But find what works within your world, and can you make it a fully realized production and make it be the one that shines above everybody else's? But yes, they're absolutely welcome, as Lyle said, and we'd love to see more of them, I'm sure, too.
Absolutely. We tried twice to take, we made it all the way regionals with a musical and very small set and small cast. That's what we looked for, was small sets and small cast musicals that would travel easily with just revolving flats. So it worked. I'm going to open it up to, and again, if anybody has questions, please ask us, but I'm going to jump back to, again, we start at a state festival, we then move on to regional. If you don't know if your state's having one, you reach out, regional festival, and then national. National, he's got it up June 16th through the 19th. But what type of things that I have not hit upon with each one of my panelists, because we've all been heavily involved in our festivals, in the whole process plan. How do we know, like, is there a time frame that state festivals have to happen in regional festivals? Um, like, do we have to start planning now? Maybe Winston's a good one for this. Who generally starts first for festivals, and when's our heavy months?
Colorado is usually my first festival that happens in the cycle. It used to be in June of the year prior to the festival, so it would be this June. However, they've shifted and started doing things in August. So now is basically their planning season. But I will say that all state and regional festivals we hope, we have a hope that everything has happened before April 15th, the year of the festival. So April 15th, 2027 is when I'm hoping that all of my state and regional festivals have been completed, so that we can make sure that we have the rest of April, all of May to get all of the scripts, all of the forms, everything to adjudicators as well as the host theater. Busy months are typically February and March for me. Those are the busiest months for me, but it's a crapshoot, really and truly. Really and truly depends on who's participating within the country, and if they've got a lot of theaters.
Yeah. Winston and I, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to add on some things that we're going to be doing for this upcoming cycle is try to do a better job of helping groups forecast what to expect in their state. So we're going to before May, because our mark is that we think that most people start really planning prior to the May. And so we are going to have a website that kind of has an outline of the various states when each state typically has their festival, the contact for that state, and if there is no contact or not much activity, of course, the reference back to the ACT office, and we will help you kind of figure out what your next steps would be if you want to participate in the festival cycle itself. And those that may already know, or those that may not know, is that each state, through their own organization, has its own organization, community theater, that's not necessarily a part of ACT. They act separately and we partner with them. And so when they have their state festival, that's when the advancement goes. That's when those groups particularly advance to the regional. And so for those that may not be aware, a state organization is independently run. We just partner with them to help put together the national festival and support that festival process.
And the regional festival
And
too.
the regional festival
Yeah,
as well.
the regional festival too is all run by the region that you would be in. So in some regions rotate where it is every cycle, so that could jump around from different state to state, and that's was formed just to keep it distance wise. So everybody at some point had to travel down the road. There is a lot of things that are exciting and happening. But again, if you don't know, please reach out and ask. Winston and I are also planning on doing some Zoom webinars. We're reaching out to states and our members in each one of our states, and we'll be setting up some Zoom webinars that we will talk with anybody who's interested in your state. So if you would like to plan one before we contact you, reach out to Winston or I, and we will get you on the list. It'll be talking about, how to get a state festival going, what you need to do, how to prep, answer any questions that you have about, process. We will set that up and we'll do kind of like what we're doing today, but maybe a little bit deeper dive into the specific questions that your state may have or your region may have. So we are excited about doing that and getting that going. The handbook will be completed here real shortly. What my process was today was to get it done so that we can get it back up onto the website. And again, we're trying to make it a little bit easier to read, easier to find things. We have checklists now. So if you are a festival host, there's a checklist of kind of a time frame. We also want to put together a time frame for like groups. So how soon do I have to get my rights? How soon do I have to plan for this? How soon? How do I fundraise? All that type of stuff we're trying to put together in a checklist that'll make it just a little bit easier for participating theaters to get involved. I want to go around with the whole group that was here again, and I would like each of you to give me a short, one word, short phrase. What's your favorite memory of ACTFest? And I'm going to start this time with Lyle.
Dang! Um, that's not my word. Oh, shoot. I'm going to say my word is reunion because I am fortunate to have friends at ACT, friends in Texas, theater friends in Mississippi, and all across the Southeast and in other states that I've met at other festivals. And it's just I know I'm going to get to see my peoples and my theater family.
Karen.
Well, Lyle stole my word. But yeah, like family, seeing your family. Uh, I say it all the time. ACT is your theater family at large. Like we all have our local ones. And so at ACT Fest, I know I'm gonna see my family.
David.
So
Um, Inspiring.
Mm.
Chris.
Um, all ones that have preceded me, but community. It is our community.
Quiana.
You are muted.
Apologies. I think for me, it's communion. Much of the office is virtual, so when we do get together, um, those dinners together, those group dinners, sharing a meal, breaking bread, and having conversations is one of the better parts of that week. So
And my word is, we say it a lot, but it is the family, it's the friends, it's the love that we have for each other, and that we all come together, no matter what size your theater or how small your theater. We all have the same common goal, and that is to do good theater, and we learn and we network from each other all the time. I just, how do we reach out to find out if our state has a festival? You're going to reach out to us, Nancy. Call Winston or myself, or email us is probably the best way to get a hold of us. Winston at AACT.org, Mary Jo at
That's me.
AACT.org. And we can answer that question for you, and we can get you set. And like I said, if you want to set up a webinar with us and talk more about how you can help get your state going, or how to get an Act Fest going, or you just have general questions that you just want to talk to us, we are here. Every single person that's here today can answer questions for you. So I'm going to turn it back over to David.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. That we are at 2 o'clock on on the dot. Before I say goodbye, I just one more reminder to sign up for our virtual masterclass this Thursday on the what, why, and how of devised theater. And while you're on our website, might as well just sign up for CTMC happening later in April. We have a lot going on at ACT. And if we don't see you at one of those opportunities coming up, we'll definitely see you in Rochester next June. Thank you all.